It was a summer. I've got all rusty. Okay, press got it. And here we are. Hello, hello, and welcome to Love Tutoring's book birthday. The whole concept of a book birthday, thank you. The whole concept of a book birthday is something that I think is completely awesome because really what's happened is this thing has come into the world. And the reason why I had to write a book and not a blog or another course was because books persist. They go out into the world, they sit on coffee tables, people pass them to each other, they sit on bookshelves, and you sort of peruse them and lose them and leave them behind. My goal is that this book becomes a favorite for the people that it's written for. My goal is that you keep it in your handbag or at least your tutoring bag. My goal is that when you move house, Jenna, this is the one that comes in the car with you. So you make sure that it doesn't get lost in the bottom of a box. That's my goal for this book. And it's entirely heartfelt and entirely in service of the tutoring profession. So Odette and I were talking about this event last night, and she said, it's remarkable when people have shared that their books arrived, they've said, I'm in a book. Yeah. Risha, you said, I'm in a book. And really, what that's begun to mean, and this was always my attention, and David, my publisher, wave, wave, thank you, will attest to this. My book was always meant for you. My book was not meant for me. It was always about crowdsourcing wisdom and bringing voices together. It was always about modeling what good looks like. So for the fact that the tutoring profession has taken ownership of this book and it's our book and I'm in a book, and those posts and Helen's daughter saying, Mummy, you're in a book, that was the concept. That was what I wanted to achieve. And that's why my heart is singing today. What I want to do in this session is zero of the self-congratulation and much more of the, because it's even my mum doesn't want to hear that, much more of the sharing of insights of two things, and I've got a few speakers here who have contributed to the book who are going to share with them some ideas. We're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about what it felt like to contribute to this book. So whether you were interviewed or whether you wrote something or whether you are one of the people that actually helped to bring this book out into the world, what that experience meant to you. Hope it wasn't nothing. And then secondly, what you think the impact of this book is going to be on the tutoring profession. I joke that it took me 6 months to write the book and 4 years to let it out into the world. But as David told me right back then, that's fine because every book has its right time. And this is clearly the right time for this book. And I would really, really love to hear those reflections from our speakers also. So we have, I think, 4 speakers scheduled. And then what we're going to do is do a little bit of Q&A. So if you have any questions that you want to add into the chat, please go ahead and do that. And I will do my best to sort of bring those out later. In addition to questions, I, of course, want to hear your comments. There's no experts here. We're all experts in our own experience and we want to hear from each other. And finally, before we close this session, and it is exactly an hour long, I will ask you to please, please, please write a review for the book. So Amazon is not a person. Amazon is an algorithm, as Lucy keeps telling me. And the algorithm pays attention to reviews. And there's lots of evidence to say that books that have more than 100 reviews get better attention. And the advantage of better attention is that it gets into the hands of the people who it's designed to help. So let me tell you quickly about that before I hand over to our speakers. This book is written to help tutors love tutoring. And that's because I didn't. With your permission, I'm going to read you a little bit. I'm going to read you the first couple of pages of the book so you get a sense of that. And I'm also going to show you the way the book is organized. And then I'm going to hand over to my lovely friends. So chapter 1 of the book is called Safe, Skilled and Supported. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin.
We are.
Learning can be lovely. I have a very specific tutoring niche. I love to work with primary age students who need a more personalized approach. Those gentle souls struggling in boisterous classrooms who crave an opportunity to learn in a calm and reassuring space. Give me a timid 9-year-old suffering with maths anxiety, and I'll give them the time and space to really explore and experiment with mathematical thinking. Give me an understimulated 11-year-old eager to go beyond the confines of the curriculum, and we will create an awesome research project together. Give me a 7-year-old who has gaps in their learning from a curriculum that is too fast-paced and an environment that is too distracting, and we will slow right down and take as much time as necessary to build solid foundations. I've tutored on and off since I was 17, but when at 31 my third child was born, I decided to try to make a career of it. As a qualified teacher in a close-knit community, word spread quickly about my tutoring. Within 2 weeks, I'd filled my schedule. And even more excitingly, I was hopeful that I could make a real difference to these young people. At first, it was delightful. While my own children were sleeping or settled with a babysitter, the students came to my home, shuttled back and forth by eager parents. I'd open the front door and warmly welcome the child in, waving their parents away with a confident smile. Coming to me for tutoring was probably good fun. My home is an inviting and encouraging learning environment. On the bookcase, the Gruffalo and Elmer, the patchwork elephant, nestle amongst hundreds of much loved and well thumbed children's books. The cupboards are stacked with Numicon and kinetic sand, playing cards, dice, and modeling clay. The walls are covered with posters, sticky notes, and magic whiteboard paper. If we're counting, it will be with colored pegs. If we're writing, it will be with scented gel pens. This is my way of setting out my stall, of creating a playful and welcoming environment that students can relax into and enjoy. It's my way of demonstrating that learning can be lovely, which is what my tutoring is all about. I use play-based, open-ended activities to bring back the natural love of learning that we all felt in our earliest years. We usually sat across a corner of my kitchen table, the student at the head of the table and me on the mustard yellow bench seat against the wall. I always started with an enthusiastic, "I'm so glad to see you," or "How's your day been so far?" I give them a little time to chat, trying to really see and hear them, to connect with them and how they felt right there in the moment. Then I'd share my schedule for the session. I like to combine maths and English to keep things fresh and to build on strengths as well as weaknesses. For ease of planning and a sense of continuity, at least one of these activities tends to be a long-term project, such as a book we're reading together or a longer piece of writing. About halfway through, I'd stop to put some biscuits on a plate and pour a glass of juice for the student, who by then would be deeply engaged in an independent task. Sometimes I'd put on some quiet instrumental music whilst they worked. For the final activity of the session, we'd do something lighter, some maths games or comic poetry, as they nibbled on a petit beurre. When they left, it would be calmly and with a smile. It was an enjoyable hour in a quiet home with a friendly and reassuring adult. If nothing else, I'd provided a welcome respite from the crowded classroom. In my imagination, tutoring was the perfect job. It was fulfilling and flexible. It enabled me to make a difference on my own terms. But again and again, at precisely the same point, I would begin to come unstuck. The fifth session is usually when a tutor shifts gear into the long, slow work of making progress. By now, we've had the time to really assess the student and build up a rapport. We've found out what they know and can do and how they feel about learning. We may also have picked up some quick wins along the way, such as reading the clock or multiplying fractions. But learning is a marathon, not a sprint. And progress is not linear. It is a messy and organic process. Tutoring, especially for primary age students, means revisiting the same skills in myriad different ways. They need to revise and apply what they're learning repeatedly, practicing until they're confident. Switching activities before they tire and coming up with yet another way of approaching the same concept takes time and bucket loads of persistence. But a month in, and the novelty begins to wear off. The parents begin to get antsy. Hope has been replaced with impatience. They're wondering, has it helped? Have we done enough? How long can we afford to continue? Or maybe, to be totally honest, it's not the parents getting antsy, maybe it's me. Maybe it's not the parents doubting me. Maybe I'm doubting myself, my ability to be the tutor my student needs. I struggled on, but my smile became strained. Within a few months, tutoring began to feel like a burden, not a blessing. It became the field for an internal battle. I think it might be Yvonne, I'm muting you. Okay, thank you. Last line. It became the field for an internal battle, a clash of my values and beliefs. I felt alone, bored, and insecure. This wasn't the no-brainer career I'd expected when I started out. Selena, can I call on you to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Julia. I'm Selena Samuels. I wrote the preface. I was privileged to write the preface to the book. And I would first of all like to thank Julia and her publishers for allowing me the time to write the preface for the book, because I said, I can't do it in the time frame you've given me. It's so hard to say no. It was one of the hardest things. I always say yes, but I said no, because I wanted to read the book and I wanted to give it its due, because it's easy to throw a quick preface together and it doesn't mean anything, but that did not seem to be the slightest bit appropriate under the circumstances. I've done a bunch of things. I'm one of the founding executives of Chloe Learning, which is Australia's largest online tutoring service. I've said that so many times I can't say it anymore. And I'm also the global director of teaching and learning for a large network of schools. But I have always been a tutor. Now, writing the preface really took me back to my earliest days as a tutor at the age of 18. Apparently, I also tutored a couple of my friends when we were at school together. I don't know whether that was just me being bossy and they're being polite by saying that I tutored them. I think I was just bossy. I think it's fair to say. But I started earning money as a tutor straight out of school, because of course, one of my friends had a younger sister who needed help, and I'd done well in my final exams, the HSC, which is New South Wales equivalent of A levels. So I tutored in English and I continued to do so. But just the memories that came back, the memories of my sister reminds me, I used to tutor in my family home in Sydney, and the kids would, or they were all boys for some reason for a while. They'd go up the stairs. They were about 2 years younger than me. I mean, when you think about it, it's ridiculous. They'd go up the stairs into my bedroom, and then they'd come downstairs and I'd be putting money into my wallet. And my sister said it was hilarious. Like, what was going on there? Obviously terribly.
Selena, thank you so much for not putting that in the book.
I thought about it, but I thought that's probably not a good idea.
All right,
But
Bevan was taking it
that's
out.
really what happened. I mean, obviously, I was tutoring them. And I remember the conversations that I've had, and that's really at the heart of it. That relationship you have as a tutor, how unique it is. That because, particularly when you're tutoring one-to-one, but I think it happens to some extent in small groups, but certainly one-to-one, you have conversations with students that they wouldn't have with anyone else. And that's a huge responsibility, obviously. But what a privilege. I recalled there was the head boy of a local Catholic school who had to go to the formal with the head girl of the local girls' Catholic school in the same area. And he was concerned because he thought that she was a bit keen on him and he wasn't really keen on her. And how was he going to tell her this? So I remember that conversation, which had nothing at all to do with Hamlet. But or maybe it
Well,
did. Actually, maybe it did. So I had that conversation with him, and I do recall. Then later on, as a university, I did my PhD in London, and in literature, and I had a colleague who ran a tutoring agency for the children. Let's be honest, the sons of Saudi sheikhs. I know that sounds bizarre, but there it is. And I used to go on the bus from Marble Arch up to Oxford once a week to tutor these boys who'd been admitted into Oxford but couldn't get through their course. I tutored them in law because I was a law graduate. All these stories came flooding back, these extraordinary stories, and the food that I was served at certain households. And when in the, I think it was the Orthodox Easter, I was tutoring a Lebanese Christian boy, and the priest came round to bless the house, and in Aramaic. And so his grandmother was translating it for me. I mean, these are extraordinary stories that we glean as tutors in a way that you don't get in, I think, in any other role, because when you're a teacher, there's all the structures around you, the school. But as a tutor, you have this great privilege. So I loved writing the preface, not just because I think it's a fantastic book, and I might get to that in a minute, but also because of the reminder it gave me of the extraordinary experiences that I've had, which of course one day I probably will never tell anyone other than now. So, hey, you got them. But Julia, thank you for writing the book, because the thing is, I had no support. I was off on my own. I had no idea what I was doing. I was off on my own adventure. Nobody died, but and actually people, because I was tutoring at the other end, Julia, I guess I was tutoring very senior students and university students. They all seemed to do all right. I mean, it never seemed to be a problem. I generally got good feedback. I mean, also when they've finished school, they disappear and you don't necessarily know what's happened, but nothing bad happened as far as I can tell. But I had no support. And it was very much a role I did quietly to myself, cash in hand. I didn't think it was important. I didn't think it was an important job. It was very much plan B for me. And yet it's formed the basis of everything that I have done since. I'm a teacher now and a teacher of other teachers because I was a tutor at the age of 18. And it was something that I did because I needed pocket money. It was as simple as that. Extraordinary experience. And I don't think that, I think I would have been much better off with a book like yours, Julia. And I'm just delighted to have been able to add in some way to the production of this wonderful book, which I think for years and potentially generations, let's not put any limits on ourselves, generations, millennia, will be a great support to people who really operate otherwise in a very lonely, isolated way, and shouldn't, and often have to actually ask for forgiveness for even doing the job that they do, this weird shadow identity of the tutor. And yet it's such a vital role, such an important job, and for me was such a great profession, has been, it continues to be. So I'm delighted to have been involved. I'm delighted to be able to speak to you. Julia, thank you for the book, which I think is a wonderful asset to us all.
Thanks, love. I really appreciate that. And now you guys know why Selena got the job of writing the foreword, because she just gets it. And she's been there. And your point, Selena, about the rich variety of experiences that come through tutoring is so, so powerful, and really inspiring. So with that, can I ask David, would you mind speaking next, please? David is CEO of Crown House Publishing, which took a punt on a mad 40-year-old in the deep dark depths of COVID. I did actually go to Wales to visit you and plunder the storeroom as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. Lovely to be here for the book birth. It's brilliant. As Julia said, this book has taken quite a long time in its gestation. A lot of that time has been persuading Julia that it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be what tutors want, what tutors and potential tutors need now in order to make their plan B into a plan A. As publishers, we always look at the potential of authors as well as the ideas that they bring to the table. And when I met Julia and saw her passion, her drive and determination to succeed and to change tutoring basically, then we knew we had something special, I think. And from that point on, we've been desperate to get this book out because it is its time. It's tutoring, I think, during COVID and post-COVID, I think is coming more into the mainstream. Less of a sort of shadow profession, but being recognised for the power that it can achieve. I didn't get tutors for fortunately, I didn't have to get tutors for my two boys, but they were both musically gifted. So we did have private music lessons, and seeing the progress that they could make compared to the progress they were making in schools, but just having those private music lessons was very, very revealing. So I'm definitely a fan. And as Selena said, one of the main thrusts of the book is to change tutoring from a plan B to a plan A, and that isn't really in terms of whether you make it your main profession. It's really in terms of mindset, being more professional about it, even if it's part time or something you do for pocket money or fill in for fill in other times that you have. It shouldn't be taken less seriously than your main job. So it is about becoming more professional and getting to love tutoring rather than treating it as just a sideline, because it is incredibly rewarding. As Julia's already said, seeing the difference that you can make to kids on a one-to-one basis or a one-to-few basis, I think is great. The book discusses various aspects of tutoring. It discusses the plan A, the plan B, but how a professional tutor should act in terms of time management, presentation, professionalism generally. But then there's a whole workshop section that covers pedagogy, subject teaching, how to get the best out of your sessions, how to improve your teaching in effect, in order to you become the tutor your student needs. And so there's a lot there on pedagogy, and that links quite well to a lot of the other books that we publish, which are all about pedagogy, improving teaching and learning, improving leadership, improving self, if you like. So it's been, it is an excellent book. We're very, very pleased with it. We're delighted that Julia's chosen us as publishers, and she's written this lovely book for us. So yeah, thank you, Julia. It's been quite a journey.
What he
we
means
look forward
is
to it.
what David means by it's been quite a journey is sometimes you send me ridiculous voice notes where you're almost sobbing because you can't get this book finished. And there's been lots of eye rolling in Wales, I know.
It's all part of the publishing process. Each book is unique. Each book has a unique journey from concept to final print, final publication, and they're all wonderful journeys in various ways. But it's been great, Julia, and we really look forward to the book doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
thank you. Thank you. Lucy, give us a wave. Lucy is
this is Lucy, by the way. Lucy's working on the marketing for the book.
Yeah, Lucy, I have Lucy on speed dial. Thank you.
That's frequent conversations with you.
Most conversations end with see you tomorrow these days.
That's right. I called you in TK Maxx yesterday and the vibe wasn't right, was it?
Yeah.
Go on, David.
One additional thing I was going to say, I looked it up this morning on Amazon and we have 3 5-star reviews already.
Thank you. Let's go. And obviously,
in the right direction.
First. I did sprinkle them around my neighbors yesterday because, these people have seen me, holed up in my home for years. At least they should see that I wasn't entirely watching Netflix. Stop. So, Anne, over to you. Anne Morris, would you mind introducing yourself and then describing your place in here? And I will give you the keywords: dogged, determination. Let's go.
Okay. Thanks, Julia. And lovely. I mean, what a great celebration. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. Thank you. So firstly, yes, to introduce myself. So my name's Anne Morris. I started off my career as a secondary maths teacher. And then in my mid-30s, after having a few children, realised I was actually not really a maths teacher that much, more of an entrepreneur. And that was quite a discovery. And because of a couple of businesses that didn't work out early doors, I actually found out I was a serial entrepreneur. And then that took me to my journey to start my business, which is called Yippee App, which is an in-school tutoring service. I will say what it stands for before Julia prompts me, as she always does. So it stands for Young Inspiring People, Inspiring Young Aspiring People. So that is Yippee App. And what we do, thank you, and what we do is recruit and employ peer mentors. So typically our tutors have just left school or college at 18 with their, ready armed with their A-levels, and they're taking a gap year before they go to university. For whatever reason, there are a million different reasons. Obviously, everybody comes with their unique position, but basically we recruit a cohort of peer tutors each September or through the year to start each September, and then they work in schools because that's my sort of knowledge and understanding experience. They work in schools to then deliver tuition through schools. So we've been doing that since 2012, way before the tutoring program, way before any particular school tutoring was being set up. And so we've been doing that, sort of throughout that period. And it's been a real roller coaster because, we started from a position where there was pretty much no tutoring in schools, certainly no tutoring in schools with peers. And I was coming at this with just an idea. I literally started with an idea and two young people from my local school who were kind of up for giving it a go with somebody who had an idea. I mean, they really did take a chance on sort of signing up to me for their gap year because I had very, very little, to offer them really. But they were brilliant in terms of what they did, and that really set the tone then throughout the year. And we've grown and grown. So our sort of cohorts during the national tutoring programme years have been around about 100 tutors, so that's from a starting point of 2, and that makes us, because we employ our tutors rather than becoming an agency, it actually makes us one of the largest employers of tutors in the UK, if not the largest employer of tutors. So we sort of run our ship slightly differently. We recruit young people, we want to treat them as young professionals, we want them to have the professional standards, and therefore we commit to them with what we offer them during their year. So it's an unusual setup. It's not your normal sort of tutoring arrangement, I guess. And that's why I think when Julia kindly asked me to contribute to the book, I was really keen to do so because I knew it would just give a different angle. It would just give a different perspective. And there's a lovely area in the book about which I felt sort of exploring and finding your niche as an educator. And this for me is my niche. I could have easily gone back after my children and done maths teaching, tutoring, and so on myself. But my skills were in running a business and my expertise was in teaching. So how do I bring those two together? And it was really my sort of journey of that. And Julia asked at the beginning, sort of reflecting on what talking about that experience was like. And, I don't do it very often these days. Lots of times in the early days, people say, how did you get started? And now it's less frequent for whatever reason. But actually going through not just a very quick summary like I have done now, really, but going through the real nuts and bolts of every stage of that journey was a real treat, actually. And Julia took a lot of time to really find out all the different bits, which is where the dogged determination came from, because that was just one of the things which I had to display in great measure whilst I was sort of bringing the business to life, because nobody in school really thought tutoring was going to be of value to them, and they certainly didn't think peers were going to be very good at it. They wouldn't be patient enough, they wouldn't be authoritative enough, they wouldn't have the skill set, they wouldn't have this, they wouldn't have that, they wouldn't have the other. Well, we're starting our 13th year with a whole load of 18-year-olds who are starting that year with schools who've worked with us, know how we work, embrace that difference and build it into their system. So this is what works, but it only came about through the determination, the dogged determination of knowing that what I did worked and kind of having sort of railroading it into people that it would work, just give it a go. And, sort of really offering that security that if it doesn't work out, we will go away. We will not charge you a penny. If we don't pay, if you're not happy, that sort of thing. And then people would give it a go, and we sort of got ourselves going. And that's the way we are now. Now Yippee App is expanding into all sorts of other areas, which is really exciting as well. But I won't want to talk forever. I just want to talk about the book. So I think and forgive me, I've got, I'm happy to sort of admit menopause brain has hit over here. So I'm very happy to talk, but I have got a few notes to just help me along. So please bear with me. So Julie asked to comment about the impact of the book. So I think, I mean, I could talk a long time about what I think the impact of the book will be, but I pulled out some real sort of things which I think are key. So I think in the wider context, as David was saying, sort of tutoring's time is now. You can tell it, you can feel it. It's coming up, you know, in all sorts of different ways. It's becoming into the zeitgeist. And I think in that wider context, I think the book will inform the debate of just even as a start point, what is tutoring? One of the real sort of lovely bits that I read was about, you know, not all tutors look a certain way. This is so true. Tutors are so different, and we have peer tutors that are very, very different from lots of other tutors out there. And it's really hit home with me. And it's this idea of what is tutoring, and then how does it relate to mainstream education? That is a debate which is going to be coming through in you know, really strongly over the next few years, because the National Tutoring Programme has set up that debate to happen. It's now stopped. It will continue as a debate in schools, and then there's the sort of thoughts about private tutoring and all of the things that are coming forward very topically about safeguarding private tutors. And this whole debate will start to really bring tutoring to the fore. And I think the book is a fantastic resource for anybody who's thinking, right, I don't really understand tutoring. What, you know, I've never really had any contact with it, or maybe I've had some contact with it, but not really thought about it that much. You know, this is a fantastic sort of resource to go to sort of really get people thinking, talking, and sort of getting into that debate. So I think that from a sort of wider point of view, that's true. Then, of course, for individuals who are thinking about becoming tutors, individuals who just want to understand about tutoring, I think if you are thinking of getting into tutoring in any way, shape, or form, this book would give any reader confidence to think, that could be me, because, you know, it does have that breadth of, you know, you will be an individual tutor and you will do things your individual way. And I think that's so key for people to come along and have that confidence, somebody telling them that they can do it, rather than just thinking they've got to struggle on being on the outside, bringing them onto the inside of thinking they can do it. And then, as David was saying, there's a sort of workbook section, which, you know, has that really solid framework. So if you are thinking about starting out as a tutor, what sort of things do you need to know? And I love the bits where it sort of pause and just make sure you've got all this in your list checked off before you go on to the next bit, and let me know that you have. And, you know, it's real heart and soul, which is absolutely brilliant about it. And then finally, there's just so many hints and tips from Julie's experience, from the research, from everybody she's talked to. You know, all of that will tie into giving people that feeling of being on a little inside track, which is, you know, I don't need to go and make all those mistakes myself. You know, when anybody starts something, you always will make mistakes, of course. But people will want to go, you know, how do I do this? This is kind of like a how-to book in that sense. So there's got that very, very strong element to it as well, giving people the confidence, but then sort of giving them the framework and the sort of setup how to do it. So I think the impact of the book will be on those individuals who thinking about going into tutoring, or perhaps have just gone into tutoring, or even, you know, experienced tutors. There's always going to be something to find in there, which is great. And I'm just going to finish off by saying, you know, as we could tell from Julia's reading at the beginning, and I confess I was going to read that section about the scented pens. How much do we all want to be scented gel pens? How much do we all want to be in Julia's house doing that? It made me feel like I was about 8 years old, and that's just such a wonderful feeling. Not many people write books, writing make you feel like that so strongly. So I absolutely love that section. But the relatability, the beautiful writing, the experience all the way through is just absolutely phenomenal. So I think it's just a great read, as well as being informative and, you know, very, very much from the heart. But yeah, that was
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry we slipped into parents' evening for a second there, but I've got it on recording, so I will send it to my mum later. Thank you. I want to share with you that here in the book, that's why I looked down for a minute, right at the beginning of the book in chapter 1, I've actually put a tick list for being a safe tutor. It's, of course, the same tick list that we have as our 5-point check in certification. And what I say at the end of the tick list, you know, I say to them, do you have your DBS? Do you have your safeguarding training? And then at the end, I say, if you're reading on, I'll assume that you've successfully completed this 5-point checklist. If you really want to make my day, email me to let me know you've done so. Don't be shy. I really want to hear from you. Actually, if you close this book now and never pick it up again, I'm satisfied that we've both achieved something important. If every tutor had these 5 fundamentals in place, and if every parent knew to expect them as a minimum, every student would be safer. So I'm really, really glad that you picked up that practical, the sort of how to get your ducks in a row element of the book alongside the personal. I think it was really important to get those two things together. Now, I've actually thrown Risha a bit of a curveball here because I hadn't planned to ask her to speak. I didn't know that she was coming, but since she's here, Risha is one of the tutors who I describe early on in the book as somebody who sort of blows it out the water, basically. Basically has made it work, has made tutoring work at a level that is impressive and relatable. So sorry to tee you up so big, Risha, but if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of your story and your place in the book and how you feel that it's going to make change.
Thanks, Julia. Wow, blimey. So yeah, I didn't know I was going to talk, so I've made a couple of notes. So excuse me if I'm a little bit sort of jittery on it. But yeah, just a quick introduction to myself. It's not about me, it's about Julia today. So just a quick one. But basically, my name's Risha Connolly, and I left the classroom. I'm a science teacher back in February 22. Just cut a long story short, I'm similar, to be honest, to you, Anne, when you're saying about being a serial entrepreneur. I'd always done a few sort of side businesses whilst being a teacher, like eBay business, upcycling business, you know, lots of different things, but nothing really kind of took off. And I always wanted to run my own business, but I didn't know what in. So when I left the classroom, my friend actually, she has her own tutoring business. She's an English teacher. And she told me about how she did it and how she tutored groups specifically. And I thought, actually, you know, this looks really good. And I think there's something in this. So I decided to basically leave the classroom. Similar story to Anne as well about having children. You know, I couldn't get part-time work. They only wanted me to do full-time. So in the end, I just said, no, that's it, I'm off. So I took the leap and basically started my own tutoring business. And luckily, it's gone really well. And I still do it now. So Simply Science Tuition, and I tutor groups just Monday to Wednesday in the evenings. And I make, you know, a really good living off of that. And basically what I found was after I started, after about, I don't know, 8 months or so of starting, I'd had a lot of tutors contacting me on Instagram and Facebook, asking me how I did it. So I started helping people on the side. And in the end, I thought, well, actually, I could do this as a business as well. So then I started the Tutor Toolkit. So I run 2 businesses now. And I basically help other teachers and educators to start or grow or build their own tuition businesses. And I've got a few people here actually. So Daisy, she did my last academy. Christopher did my first academy. And Helen, I speak to quite a bit. Louisa, if that's the right Louisa, she did also one of my academies. I think I've included her and Amanda Sports in my toolkit. So hopefully, you know, I've helped quite a few other people to get started and sort of change their lives in a little way, you know, get them started with that as well. So that's me. In terms of Julia and the book and Qualified Tutor, Julia and Adette have been instrumental, to be honest, with my start on the Tutor Toolkit. So it's always grateful to you guys for that, because you really gave me a platform at the beginning of my journey to, you know, let other people know what I was doing. So thank you. And then when Julia asked me as well to be in the book again, I was, to be honest, shocked. And I was like, oh, okay. So never done anything like that before, but I felt really privileged, to be honest. And to be honest, I feel for myself, it's one of my personal top achievements. Like it's on my sort of list. And similar thing to like Helen, when you were saying on your LinkedIn, you had a video of your daughter reading, you know, mummy's in a book. It was similar with my children as well. So it was a really lovely feeling. So thank you. And in terms of you were asking about the impact of the book, I've just written a few things down. And funny enough as well, Anne, I've got here on my notes, dogged determination. So it's on page 185 because I wrote it down. And I just totally 100% agree with you in terms of, you know, starting your own tutoring business. You know, it's not an easy route because you do need a lot of determination. You need to be really sort of dedicated and determined to start your own business because it's a lot of work. However, it's worth every second because, you know, you get to change students' lives and you also get to change your own life as well for you and your family, you know, and choose your own hours, be your own boss, etc. So it's, you know, it's amazing. In terms of Julia's book, I think obviously it's fantastic. You know, it's not just like a flimsy little book. It's a really decent book, you know, with loads and loads of information in there. I love, I put down here like the pause points in particular. So it can be really, you can reflect on your practice, take action. It's really thought provoking, you know, so it's not just something where it's giving you lots of information. You can actually reflect on it so you can start to implement it. It's obviously really inspiring, hearing all the different stories from all different people, from all different walks of life, you know, and again, just realizing, you know, that there is another way, and there's lots of different ways as well to do tutoring and to run a tutoring business. There's not just one way, there's so many different ways of doing it. I mean, like Selena, what you were talking about, and the way you're doing yours, you know, everyone does it differently, and that's great. And yeah, I think it's just, for me, it's inspiring, and it's just the idea that anything is possible. Again, with that dogged determination, you know, you can achieve what you want to, and this is the perfect guise to get you started, or to motivate you on those low points where sometimes you think, oh, you know, it's not working, just to dip into it and read other people's stories and think, actually, yes, I can do this as well. So that's my take on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm really glad that I put you on the spot, because you nailed it. I'm really glad that I was able to, that we were able to help, and also that that the book came across in the way that that you've just described, because that's really what it was intended to do. And if it creates a whole army of mini Rishas and Anns around the tutoring world, then students benefit. So, so that's the goal. Now, we have one more speaker. And Amanda and I have been friends since the first week of Qualified Tutor, because she came to our very first cohort. I hope you won't mind my telling them, Amanda, she managed to have Zoom upside down, which is really hard to do. But by the end of week 2, she was showing other people how to do it. So Amanda's that person. The other thing that's important about you, Amanda, is you're not a qualified teacher. You took a route through being an LSA, a TA, a specialist in special educational needs. You did your MA, I think, in dyslexia, and you've gone through a route of specialism that completely circumvented the need to do teacher training or run a classroom. And that becomes really, really interesting, doesn't it? Helen, you're nodding along because you have a similar story, and I know Daisy and Jenna, other people in this room as well. It's really, really important to me that tutors don't have to be qualified teachers, because we need awesome people, and they're not all in the classroom. They're in lots of different places. So Amanda, would you mind just giving us the last sort of overview of how it felt to be part of the book and what you think this book is going to do?
I will. And of course, you know how nervous I get, and you've saved me till last. So I think
But I did give you warning.
I know, I'm kidding. I just hope I've had to keep disappearing because my doorbell keeps going and the dog keeps barking. So I'm sure. Like Anne, I have written a few notes because I have an atrocious memory. So firstly, super well done. And let me ask you a question. How are you feeling?
You know, all the feelings. Lucy's
blown away.
Cracked after this.
It's such an achievement, and like Julia said, I've been with sort of known Julia since her first sort of 4-part course, and we had many conversations at the time of how do we progress this course and what do we do you remember? And we did quiz nights with some of the people that you were working with, and we had quite laughs along the way, as long as you helping me enormously in my start. So just a bit about me. As Julia said, I worked for many years working with academic support. I had no intention of becoming a qualified teacher, despite many people saying, why didn't I? Standing in a class of 30 kids was not my thing. But during the time I was a TA, I did all my dyslexia qualifications and everything. So in 6 years ago, I just said, actually, do you know, I'm so overqualified for what I'm doing now, and I should be earning more money for a start. And so I just quit and started doing a bit of tutoring. And of course, then we straight away went into COVID. And during just before that, I had applied to Julia to do her course, and initially it just gave me the hugest confidence, enough that one of my parents a couple of years ago sent me this. And actually, for a very long time, it was probably longer ago than that actually, and for a very long time that stayed in the cupboard. But now I openly go, do you know what, this is it. And so she gave me the confidence, particularly because we then went into COVID, so there was a lot of learning for online, which we had to do. But I'm just so grateful for that start. We went through the sort of steps, what to do, and it made me feel like a professional. And I always had this hookup of not being a qualified teacher, and I am super passionate about saying to tutoring agencies and businesses, you know, that quote this, you have to be a qualified teacher. Actually, you're losing out on some really, really talented people. And, you know, that's a shame, but, you know, that's part of the rule. But anyway, it's the book itself, brilliant. And I'm so glad you got it finished.
Who's my husband?
I can imagine. And it's awesome. So I'm on page 147 and 156. And what has it
Could have been in there 6 more times.
Oh, thank you. What it has meant for me more than anything is that although Julia checked out whether I could be in the book, I wasn't videoed, I wasn't interviewed, I wasn't asked to write a specific bit. What you've written there is just about who I am and what I do. And I'm going to get emotional because that means even more than you asking me to write something specific. You have, you know, you've written about, I'm in the reassess part of the book, and I think that as tutors it is something we are privileged to be able to do immediately. We don't have this, you know, if something's not working like that, we can change it with our students, and that is the privilege that we have. And that's what you've put about my bit in the book mainly, and I feel really privileged that you've just taken that from the work that I do. And I hope with as people get into this profession and become more experienced at it, because it does take some experience to be able to do that and to go off track, but that you can do that and your students can still benefit from that you're not necessarily on plan.
You've got 1 minute.
Okay, right. I'm so sorry. Right. So I've done that. As far as what it's going to bring to the profession, biggest that it's not a sideline, it's a profession. And, you know, crucially, there has been, even in recent weeks, obviously a lot of publicity or certain things that have come to light, and it is showing that actually the core skills, particularly the safeguarding and that kind of thing, are crucial. And it shows that that's needed, and it hopefully will show parents also that they need to ask for those things. You've thrown me now with that. My one thing as a individual, I'm dyslexic myself, and this I will open and read through because of how it's laid out. I'm not, you know, the fact that there are pages like this with big writing, and it's not a book. I mean, I have many, many, many books, and when I open a page and it is just all writing, I end up putting it down because I just can't cope with it. So the fact that this is laid out like it is something that I will just go back to, and hopefully other people. You've thrown me with giving me a minute. Have I covered everything?
You have. And I think that point that you've just said about the book being accessible is really, really important. David heard me rambling with the designer for the book so many times because I said tutors are time poor.
Yeah.
And if you want them to read it, it has to feel like they can pick it up. It has to feel bite-sized. So I'm really, really happy that the book has felt comfortable for you. I'm going to wrap up the session now because, as you know, punctuality is one of the 7 Ps, and so I must finish on time. But I wanted to completely spoil you by giving you the last few pages of the book as well. Would that be all right? Okay, fantastic. What I know for sure Inspired by Oprah Winfrey's the wonderful book, What I Know for Sure, here are some of the truths I've learned about tutoring. It's time to stop waiting for permission and start creating the change in education that really needs to happen. The greatest strength of tutoring is how complex and diverse it is. This is also its greatest weakness. To love tutoring, you need to be safe, skilled, and supported. Tutoring in a silo will rarely be successful or sustainable. Tutoring is an agile and open space, ideally suited to entrepreneurs and idealists. It is not suited to cowboys or hustlers. There is more than one way to be an educator, and the sooner we realize this, the happier we will be. A more fluid approach to teaching and tutoring could make employment in education a more attractive option. And finally, just imagine. Imagine a school timetable in which tutors and teachers work side by side, leaning into their strengths. The teacher would run a bustling classroom where students would support and challenge each other in open-ended activities. The tutor would focus on functional skills, working with every student in rotation on an individualized learning pathway, ensuring that really and truly no student is left behind. Imagine a teaching career where tutoring is a legitimate branch on the pathway. Imagine the depth of subject knowledge that tutors would develop. Imagine the improvements they could achieve in their practice by focusing on the teaching and learning without the distractions of classroom management. Imagine how safe the teacher would feel going to the school leader and asking for a secondment to the tutoring staff so they could recharge their batteries before burning out. Imagine a future where an agile, adaptable curriculum is delivered by adaptive computer-based learning, and each student is nurtured by a caring, committed lead learner who feels like a safe, trusted adult. Imagine an education sector with tutors and teachers working together as mutually respected experts. Imagine a whole department of one-to-one rooms with open doors, willing tutors, and zero stigma. Imagine a school where everyone knew that the needs of every child would be met. Imagine the joined-up planning there could be between tutors and teachers, with tutors contributing to the teacher-assessed examinations, to school reports and education, to EHCP plans. Imagine the professional dialogue. Imagine the quality of support the student would receive. Imagine a society of people who haven't spent their childhoods competing in an impossible race. Imagine a society of people who were set up for success. Now, imagine your role within that future. Imagine yourself as a contributor to a new way of teaching and learning. Imagine yourself as a leader, pointing towards gentler ways to improve outcomes. Imagine yourself as the dove, flying off to dry land. Just imagine. Thank you so much for participating in the session with me. Yes, I have scratched the itch of every primary school teacher, which is to read to people. I have enjoyed this session more than you can imagine. And I'm so glad that the book did what it was supposed to do. If I could trouble you to please, please, please write a review on Amazon right now, before you have lunch, because Amazon is an algorithm, not a person, and it only cares if you write reviews. Thank you so much to Selena. Thank you to Odette. Odette, did you want to say something?
We need a picture with everybody holding the book, please. I did put it. Everyone else has read my comment in the chat.
All right, I was busy.
No, but I must say, Julia, it's very therapeutic hearing you read. I've just made a note, and I know Lucy saw it because I saw her face when she read my comment that the audiobook's going to be amazing.
David, did you hear that? Okay, the book's up. The book's up. Everyone who has it is holding it up. Let's go.
Okay, hold on. Has Lucy gone to run to get a book?
Lucy's run to get a book.
Okay,
just a minute.
Hold your book. Mr. David Rones, where is your book? Is it still not arrived? He had to read mine at the weekend.
Oh. David Rones is our business mentor, and he gets a thanks and an acknowledgement in the book. And it just says, to David Rones, my business mentor, who just gets it. We really appreciate you.
Mine's in Australia. Sorry. In Australia.
Give us a big smile, Selena.
Oh, you want to
Give us a big smile. smile.
brilliant.
Rest of
Well
you,
done.
give us a big smile. Thank you. Hold your book. Got it.
Got it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Okay, can I do my lovely goodbye now, please?
Now you can. I have to leave because I have a call with a new member. So bye, everybody.
Bye, Odette. Thank you, Selena. Thank you, David. Thank you, MJ. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Alma. Thank you, David. Thank you, Risha. Thank you, Christopher. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Dee. Thanks, Daisy. Thanks, Zahir. Thanks, Yvonne. Thanks, Jenna. And thank you, Louisa. Thank you, LinkedIn. Bye.